For the past 7 years, I've been working on my game, and I'm very, very close to finishing it. Hello there everybody, my name is Dash, and I welcome you to one of the final devlogs for my rhythm game RPG, Disharmony. Back in late April, I set up a goal for myself to spend as much time as possible working on my game nearly every day until it's finished. Doing so every day felt unrealistic, so I gave myself 20 days where I let myself rest. This video will showcase how that's been working out for me so far. If the game looks interesting to you, please wishlist it on Steam, as that would help me out tremendously. It only takes a couple clicks. Thank you. Something I doubt I've mentioned before is that the game has a day-night cycle. Sort of. As you progress through the story, you'll be presented with moments where you can choose to spend time on something, like hanging out with one of the game's characters. And doing so will make time pass. Doing so will obviously reward you with something, but there will be consequences for spending time off from your adventure. I'd had this in mind for quite some time, but it wasn't until recently that I'd actually programmed the day-night evening effects themselves. White Ridge in particular looks really nice at night, with these little particles floating around in the air, but I doubt many people will actually go out of their way to come here at nighttime. In order to save myself from having to replay the entire game every time I want to test something in the final few areas, I've been using these debug doors outside the first house of the game to fast forward to where and when I need to go. They're really starting to get out of hand. They're all unlabeled as well. Oh boy. I thought using the basic enemy backgrounds for bosses was kinda lame, so I've made some crazy ones for them. The game's optional dungeons are the nightmares of the game's characters. All of them have some kind of visual theme or gimmick. Ellie's is based on computers and games, so I made a little virtual desktop with a window you can drag around that shows the game itself. Speaking of Ellie, all of her gameplay stuff is basically done now, including her full introduction, as well as pathfinding and animations for a part in the game where she follows you around. Things were going well. Almost a bit too well, because I managed to hurt my knee real bad. And my wrist. In about 2 days. Awesome. Hey, will you look at that? All the optional dungeons are hooked up to the game now, so they give me access without debug tools to save editing. Most enemies I've added to the game have been pretty static in the overworld, but not these guys. These enemies are called mandrakes, and they're buried in the ground. They pop out once you get close, which might catch you off guard. They're pretty easy to avoid once you know what to look for though. Speaking of enemies, they now spawn and despawn as intended. Once you've defeated an enemy, they don't respawn in the overworld. On top of that, the player now always spawns where they're supposed to when the battle is over, regardless of whether they win or lose. I had an idea a few days in. I decided that, since my beard was getting kinda messy, I'd shave it for the first time in quite some time. I trim my beard quite often, but I rarely shave it all off at once. This time, however, I decided not only to shave my face totally smooth, but I wouldn't so much as trim it until the game is released. Does this have some deep meaning or symbolism? Not really. I just thought it'd be a fun challenge of sorts. It'll be interesting to see how much it's grown by the time the game is actually out. You know what people like? Steam achievements. So I decided to add those. There's an achievement for finding a secret near the beginning of the game, an achievement for finding the hidden post-game ending, one for completing the Seagull side quest, more on that in a bit, and one for making it to White Ridge at night. There's going to be one achievement for each ending, and one for each hidden event, and maybe some more dumb stuff. Anything that rewards the player for going out of their way to find something cool. Oh, and speaking of the hidden post-game ending, I've added a hidden post-game ending. Up until this point, things had been going pretty well, aside from me hurting my wrist and knee. I'd done a good job at following my schedule, and I was getting a lot of work done. That is, until I got sick.
It is July 25th, and I am sick. I'm, very sick. I've had a fever for a couple of days. I haven't gotten any work done for 3 days, and counting. I think this is the 4th day. This might be the 3rd day, I'm not certain. No, 4th day for sure. Things are not going super well, but I do feel a little bit better now than I have for a couple of days. So I might get some work done tonight. We will see. I probably look very sick. I can't really see what I look like through the viewfinder, but yeah.
After a while, I realized that mixing the game's sound was going to be a nightmare. To make the mixing easier on me, I decided to split some of the sounds into different audio groups and do some other shenanigans. After a while, I noticed some sounds were significantly louder than others, despite the fact that they sounded just fine in the editor. I then realized it's because many sounds have had their gain, basically their volume, manually set to 100 in the game's code. This means 100% of the sound file itself and doesn't care about the limit in GameMaker's sound asset editor. Oh boy, this is gonna take a while to fix. So it is currently, right before 6 AM, hope that's showing on the camera. Whoa. Right before 6 AM. I'm very tired. I have not slept, I just gave Luna her breakfast. yeah, I mean, things have been going well, I guess. I was like, oh, I should probably get some sleep. And I was like, nah, I'll just get some coffee and power through it. So, I'm currently storyboarding one of the last cutscenes. It's going pretty well. It's not all the progress I've made. I've done more stuff as well. Yeah, that's kind of it for now. Oh my god, I'm so tired and I'm contemplating whether I should get more coffee and just finish storyboards, maybe even start working on the final sprites, or if I should just go to bed and sleep and just collapse for like a few hours. We'll see. Yeah, that's all for now. I tend to get very excited whenever there's a new Game Maker update, as the last half a dozen or so have been really exciting. That is until they released a July update, which, caused some issues. So there was a new Game Maker update released a few days ago, and I'm not super happy with it. It's a little bit buggy. Here's an NPC in the game. This is what they're supposed to look like. Jumping up and down, right? Easy peasy. Now let's open the game, and you will see that this is what it actually looks like in game. So that looks about right. Yeah, so a bunch of my animations are totally screwed up now, and I can't fix them until the bug itself's been fixed. Just what I needed weeks before release. After a lot of stress and hard work, I decided to do something I should have done much sooner. Relax. I shut my PC off, plugged my Nintendo Switch into my computer's monitor, and played some N64 games. You can't see it in the footage I recorded, but I actually teared up a bit while playing. The feeling of sitting back and doing something I enjoyed without being interrupted by notifications or otherwise from my computer is something I really needed. Speaking of, after plugging the Switch in, I started playing a game called 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This is totally unrelated to the video, but if you want a really nice looking stylized game with an absolutely insane narrative, go play it. It's on PS4 and Switch, obviously not sponsored or anything. It's just that 13 Sentinels is the only game I've had time to play since I started this work schedule, and I was surprised by how much I liked it. Anyways, back to game dev. In Sania, the Halloween-themed town has finally been stat-dressed. I've also added NPCs, music, blood rain, and that little seagull side quest I alluded to earlier, which is a side quest in which you must find and collect a bunch of seagulls. The mandatory RPG lore dump cutscene has been added as well. I decided it was time to try and boost the game's social media presence a bit. So with the help of my ever-reliable friend Casper, we started doing daily social media posts for a week. It did help with the wish lists, but not by a lot. Please wishlist it, I'm desperate. After over 4 years of using it, I decided it was time to change my Game Maker wallpaper. I've been using this lovely piece of one-shot fan art since sometime around 2017-2018, but I think I need something new to stare at after hundreds upon hundreds of hours of use. So I will be using this Mother 3 fan art for the foreseeable future. And will you look at the time? After roughly 2.5 months, I'm out of those 23 days I gave myself. Cool. It was around this time that I uploaded the previous devlog video, and wow, it's doing pretty well. That's actually been motivating me to work harder. That's kinda cool. After several days of hard work, I finally managed to finish the most ambitious cutscene in the game. It took many hours, but it's finally done. I finished it the day before writing the script of this video, in fact. I've been blazing through the progress I've made in this video, so it probably doesn't feel like I've gone over 3 months of work, but that's because I haven't. There are several cutscenes and areas I've specifically decided not to talk about, since they're related to the end of the game. One of the first things I worked on during this time period was a late game cutscene, and I will not show that until the game is out. And that will do it for this video. The next one will be out when the game's finished. Probably, at least. I still have a decent chunk of work left to do, but it will be done sooner rather than later. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end, it means a lot. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you wishlisted the game on Steam. It's totally free, and will really help me with Steam's harsh recommendation algorithm. So, again, thank you ever so much for watching, and as always, have a good day.